Good morning, I'm Chris Fox, and today we're talking about writers' conferences and whether or not they are worth attending. Now, before I jump into that, I did want to visit where I've been for the last couple of weeks, and part of that was at a writers' conference. But for those that are unaware, I live in Northern California, right in the heart of where the fires are. So there is a possibility we could still be asked to evacuate. I've seen places that I've known my entire life that have burned to the ground. It's just crazy. The air is full of ash. I've taken off my mask for recording this video, but I'll be putting it back on as soon as I'm done. And you can see I kind of have a mess behind me, which I don't normally have. It's been a little bit crazy getting packed and making sure we're ready to go if we need to. Anyway, let's jump into the part about writers' conferences, because I really have been looking forward to doing this video. Earlier this year, I went to the Smarter Artist Summit, and I just got back from a week-long trip to Florida at Novelists Inc. And next month, finally, I'll be doing the third and final conference, which is the 20 Books to 50K conference in Las Vegas. So that'll be 3 this year. They're all different levels of experience and sort of different goals. So it really allows me to contrast. And I can answer the question, up front, are they worth going to? And the answer is a qualified yes. Generally, I'm going to go with yes, they are worth going for. I have at every conference I've gone to done a tremendous amount of networking and have learned a whole bunch too, especially at Novelists Inc. It was a much more advanced conference. You are required to make quite a bit of money and to be voted into the organization before you can attend. So everybody there has a significant amount of success. Whereas the Smarter Artist Summit and 20 Books to 50K is open to anyone. And so you've got a much lower level of experience. I'm doing more teaching and less learning. But here's the crux, I think, of what you need to decide before knowing whether or not a writers' conference makes sense for you. How much does it cost? Plane ticket, drinks, dinners out with other writers, and whatever other associated fees are there, total it up. Total it up. And if it is going to cost you a significant portion of your income for that year, if you're going to have to forego editing or covers or any of that stuff, in my advice, don't go. Do not go to that conference. They are amazing, but they're only really valuable if you're at a point in your career where you can take advantage. Networking is wonderful, but if you're having to throw it on a credit card to go do this, seriously give it some thought as to whether or not you're going to get enough to really make it worthwhile. There is a ton of networking that we can do online in small online communities, places on Facebook. I'm in groups that range from 30 people up to 13,000 people. And I'm always learning and trying to give back as well. You can do exactly the same thing. So if you're at a stage in your career where you're not yet making a ton of money at this, please do not feel obligated that you need to go to these conferences. Now that said, these conferences are amazing. You're hanging out with a bunch of writers who most of the time we're at home with nobody to talk to. And finally, it's like, we're being let out to play. We can go out drinking, which is what most people do at this conference, and they're hurting the next morning. But I think where the magic really happened is sitting around tables with people who've sold literally millions of books in every genre you can imagine, willing to brainstorm with each other and to talk about where we think the market is going and how things are changing. So I guess where I'm at with conferences, I'm going to be doing fewer next year just because I do feel like it's impacting my writing time. But I'm really happy with the 2 that I've attended this year, and I'm excited about the 3rd one. If I had to pick so far, I think the one that was my favorite was definitely Novelists Inc. I love the location. It's at a resort in Florida. You're right there on the beach. It's beautiful. And again, there was that level of knowledge. So in my case, I've spoken at each of these conferences, which was interesting as well. You definitely get a different perspective when you're speaking because, of course, people recognize you after the talks, and they do tend to approach you a little bit more. But I also had people that I was hanging out with that, were trying to avoid the limelight and didn't like, being introduced to people. And they still met some of the top sellers in their genre and learned a whole bunch of information. So if you're on the fence about whether or not to do a writers' conference, look at your budget. And if you can squeeze one in this year, go. But again, don't feel obligated. Don't feel like you have to do so. It's probably not going to make or break your early career. So that said, guys, I have a ton of writing to do. I have a pre-order for Voidworm, which is due on November 30th. And I also have Tales from the Void, which you guys will see coming out in the next week. So I do need to get back to the writing. Also, I need to make sure that I am aware of the fires in the area. But you will see more consistent videos going forward. My travel is over for at least a few more weeks. And we're going to start jumping into some more craft videos next week. So there you go, guys. I'm going to get back to the writing.